Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a highly technical, absolutely foundational piece of computer science history. We're talking about Taher ElGamal's brilliant 1985 paper, a public key cryptosystem and a signature scheme based on discrete logarithms. If you've ever wondered how modern digital trust is mathematically built from the ground up, well, you're in the right place. This paper literally built one of the core foundations of the secure digital communications we all rely on today.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. A new cryptographic frontier, math, the discrete logarithm, the public key system, digital signatures unlocked, testing the defenses, and we'll wrap up with Elgamal versus RSA.
Part 1. A new cryptographic frontier.
To really appreciate ElGamal's breakthrough, we've got to look at exactly where it dropped into the timeline of early crypto history. Before 1985, two major milestones pretty much set the stage. Back in 1976, Diffie and Hellman introduced the very concept of public key cryptography. Then, shortly after, in 1978, the RSA system was born, which relied entirely on the difficulty of factoring massive integers. But in 1985, ElGamal stepped up and brought a completely new mathematical engine to the table to secure our digital communication.
Just so we're all starting on the exact same page, let's quickly review the core concept here. Think of public key cryptography like a special kind of digital lockbox. You're handing out open padlocks, that's your public key, to anyone in the world. Anyone can put a message in the box and snap that padlock shut. But once it's locked, only you, the owner, holding the unique private key can actually unlock and read it.
Moving on to Part 2, math, the discrete logarithm.
So, what's the actual engine under the hood that makes ElGamal's lockbox so incredibly secure? Well, let's draw a clear line here between the competing systems of the era. Unlike RSA, which rests entirely on how computationally hard it is to factor huge numbers into prime components, ElGamal's system relies on a completely different problem, the discrete logarithm problem over finite fields. Think of it as a cryptographic one-way street. Going one direction, doing the exponentiation, is computationally super easy, but trying to reverse it without the secret key, it's basically impossible.
Now don't let the dense formulas from the original paper freak you out. This is really just the mathematical architecture of a one-way function. It simply means the math is easy to drive forward to encrypt a message, but incredibly hard for an intruder to reverse engineer to get back to the original text without having the secret map, which, in this case, is your private key.
All right, Part 3. The public key system.
Let's see how this math translates into the first practical tool introduced in the paper, the public key system, designed specifically for encrypting messages. And this is where ElGamal's genius really shines. He introduced a random number, denoted as k, directly into the enciphering operation. Because of this randomized k, if you encrypt the exact same plaintext message twice, the resulting encrypted text is going to look completely different each time. This totally neutralizes intruders relying on probable text attacks, where they basically guess the content of a message, encrypt it themselves, and check for a match. With ElGamal, that attack is totally useless.
But in cryptography, everything is a trade-off. The cost for this amazing randomized security? It's space. Because the encryption outputs a pair of numbers, the resulting encrypted ciphertext ends up being exactly twice the size of your original message block. If you're sending a ton of data, that doubling in size is a pretty massive practical consideration. Section 4. Digital signatures unlocked. ElGamal's second major invention from the paper is a brand new digital signature scheme. Think of this like a mathematically unforgeable wax seal that proves exactly who sent a document. The source material lays out this super elegant, actionable three-step procedure. First, you pick that random number k. Then, using your secret key and the public parameters, you calculate two values, r and s. This pair, r and s, literally becomes your signature. It's entirely verifiable by anyone using your public key, but mathematically tied directly to your private, secret key.
But, wow, here is the dramatic catch, and the author explicitly warns about this in the paper. We just talked about that random number k, right? Well, any value of k should never, ever be used twice in the signing process. If you reuse k to sign two different documents, the entire security of the system completely collapses. No joke.
Because here's what happens. If an attacker gets hold of two different messages signed with the exact same random number k, the math suddenly flips. It goes from a complex discrete logarithm problem into a uniquely determined system of simple linear equations. The attacker can just easily solve those equations and recover your private, secret key, which is denoted as z.
This brilliantly highlights the extreme fragility of cryptographic implementation. Literally one reused number and the whole fortress comes crashing down.
Which brings us to part 5, testing the defenses.
Any robust cryptographic paper has to relentlessly attack its own defenses, right? So the author methodically stress tests his own signature scheme. He explores several attack vectors. He looks at what happens if an intruder tries to develop linear dependencies among unknowns, or what happens if a forger attempts to create a valid signature pair, that R and S, without ever actually knowing the secret key.
Fortunately for our digital security, ElGamal demonstrates that his math absolutely holds up under pressure. He proves that without the secret key, breaking the system, recovering the key, or forging a legitimate signature remains just as mathematically grueling as solving the core discrete logarithm puzzle itself. Assuming you don't reuse that random k, the system is rock solid.
Finally, part 6, ElGamal versus RSA.
Let's wrap this up by putting ElGamal's twin inventions head-to-head with the heavyweight champion of the era, RSA. These practical trade-offs perfectly highlight the differences straight from the paper's conclusions. The underlying math, completely different. When it comes to digital signatures, ElGamal is highly competitive, matching RSA's signature size perfectly. But for encrypting messages, ElGamal gives you that incredible randomized security at the cost of doubling the ciphertext size and requiring 2 mathematical exponentiations to encrypt, compared to RSA.
Oh, and there's this absolutely fascinating little detail tucked away at the end of the paper. While natively verifying an ElGamal signature takes 3 exponentiations, the paper notes a brilliant mathematical shortcut suggested to the author by A. Shamir. By cleverly organizing the math in a binary expansion table, the average computing cost to verify a signature drops to just 1.875 exponentiations. It's just a wonderful example of mathematical optimization in action. Taher ElGamal's 1985 paper gave us an incredibly powerful alternative to RSA and introduced randomization to encryption in a way that changed the field forever. But we're going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Cryptography is an ongoing arms race. As our computing power, and particularly quantum computing, continues to relentlessly accelerate, will the discrete logarithm over finite fields remain an unsolvable puzzle? Or are we soon going to require entirely new mathematical frontiers to secure our digital trust? Keep learning, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next explainer.